to pray. There's no angels where I go, only pieces that are broken, scattered dreams across the floor. I'm home.
Alrighty, hello everybody, this is Kyusho here. Okay, good. The guy in the red suit isn't here. I had to give him a chimichanga and, yeah, he left. Anyways, that guy was weird. Now then. Whenever we last left off, we had just discovered, or well, Deku had just discovered that he is on an alien planet. And 9 of the 10 Space Marines had left to go get more children to recruit and, well, bring to the planet. Now, with that being said, Deku, for him it has been around 2 to 3 months. There are more and more kids on the planet. There's actually a lot of people here. He's really impressed. He's never seen so many kids in one place. Not even that, it's actually really nice. But one thing he does find a bit odd is that a lot of similarities between him and some of the other kids is that they all seem to be quirkless. So, exactly why is that? Now, Deku, he's actually talking with quite a few of them, and, well, they would be interrupted. Whenever one of the Marines in their giant armor would walk forward, saying that they need to understand this. They understand that quite a lot of them want to be heroes. We will give you the power needed to become them. But you will also become part of the Emperor in doing so. This is something not everyone here will enjoy. And those of you who failed, well, you will understand the consequences soon. But please understand, everything we are putting you through, it is for your own good. You would not survive without our training. We have all gone through this. Every one of the Space Marines have. Which quite a few kids get talking, and Deku just kind of says this a bit out loud. Space Marine? Wait, like the myth? To which the Marine would just somewhat turn to Deku, looking at him. He is standing behind a relatively small kid, but, well, you can still see his face, as he just looks a bit confused. The Marine walking over to him, as you can hear his heavy foot stomping straight over to Deku. The kid immediately basically scrambling behind him and hiding behind him. As the Marine would bend down, saying, "What do you mean, the myth?" As quite a lot of children build the courage to begin to say that the myth of the Marines, the people with the symbols, which somewhat interests the Marines. As the chapter librarian, he would step up. He would say that this is interesting. He's heard of these little rumors, but this just confirms it a little bit better. As the Marines would somewhat gather together, talking and trying to figure this out. The librarian giving them information which you can tell makes them a bit angry, since they're basically shouting at each other. Now, this is whenever the Marines would just turn around and ask exactly what is in this myth. To which a lot of kids begin to say stories. The stories of the men who are indestructible, the ones who can, well, lift anything, throw anything, basically like old Greek mythology, which these mythological myths of Greek mythology in this timeline are based off of the Marines, which the Marine would notably know one of these cases. A man having to sacrifice his own hand. Now, the reason why he knows that story is because an ally of his actually did have to sacrifice his hand to a gene stealer, whenever the gene student tried to eat through and take his hand. The only way to save himself was to amputate it. Now, with that, there are a lot more stories the Marines are hearing, which is a bit weird because these are from children. Exactly what do the adults know about them? Now, they would finally get back on the topic, as the Marine would just announce that they are going to be going for a bit of a run. As each Marine would just separate and take around 100 kids with them. So this was quite a lot of kids. Now, they all separate and actually start by teaching each other different things. Certain Marines will focus on certain things, while the chapter librarian, he focuses on somewhat mental training. Now, you have some Marines who focus on weightlifting and actual training, while you have one that will run things like it's boot camp. One will be easier on the children and basically test their mental fortitude, while another Marine can take the kids on hunts, and basically be tasked with providing food for your fellow warriors. Now, Deku, he is running with the Marines, the Space Marines. They are having a bit of trouble, since a lot of the kids that are there, a lot of them are fast and will able to go faster than the pace the Marines have set for them, but the Marines would have gotten annoyed and yell at these children, getting them back in line. As the Marines, they would slowly amp things up to a point where they're actually basically just running at full speed. Basically, like if you were to give a tank the ability to go 100 miles an hour. You can just hear it thudding against the ground, well, basically shaking everything around it. The kids having to basically dodge these giant footprints and imprints left in the sand, or well, the mud. Now, eventually the Marines would have stopped after running about 2 to 5 miles. The kids, they would be exhausted and they are actually missing quite a few, as they would see after 10 to 20 minutes a Marine basically just doing a lighter form of running, and the other kids run up, them getting disappointed. They begin to start coordinating who's going with who, as eventually they would get that done. Deku going with quite a bit of the people he actually does know, so he gets a bit lucky. Now, this is where Deku, he actually does learn that the Marine they're training with this time, they are going to be doing what can be best described as pain training and or physically enduring the environments. Now, the Marine, he would be instructing them on how to do different courses. In the last couple months, they've been preparing the forest specially for the children. They begin by having them run a course. The kids having to run through the forest and actually get away from the Marine. Him saying that this is going to be like a game they call tag. If he captures them, they will be doing extra harsh training. If they can get away, then they need to prove that they can stay away. Know when to retreat, and if you can, you will get extra credits, as he calls it, for trying to actually attack the Marine. Which is a bit extreme, since a lot of kids don't really know what he means by this. Now, Deku and quite a few of the people he knows are actually talking, as the Marine would have just shouted "Go" as loud as he could, and the kids would begin to run off. Deku, he begins to start sprinting, as he's trying to find a good thing to do. He can go up into the trees, but that might be the first place the Marine would look. Even then, the trees aren't that dense. He'll be given away either way. The shirt he's wearing is gray and, well, the leaves on the trees are blue. So he continues to go through it, going through mud and red sand, as he comes to a wall that looks to be full of moss. He can hear the Marine behind him, and he can actually hear the heavy footsteps, as he hears 2 already. And a lot of the kids are somewhat screaming in the forest because they've been caught, so they'll have to do this extra harsh training. Now, Deku, he starts to try and climb. As he gets around 5 to 7 feet in the air, before he can hear another child get caught, and he would turn around to see that that one was closer. He can see the Marine, and the Marine, he is still looking for more children. Deku just climbs higher and higher and higher. He actually just scraped his hand on a sharp rock, but he just can't really get up any other way. As his hand starts to pour with blood, going down his arm, as he would have heard the Marine. The Marine, he just instructs Deku that he has found him, and that he needs to come down, so that he may participate in this training. Deku would just turn his head and stare at the man. As the man, he can see something drop from the sky, as he would look down to see a bit of blood. He would just instruct the boy that he needs to come down and get that tended to where Deku would just turn, grabbing at the rocky that was sharp, and bring his finger up, pulling onto it. Not only does he dig the rock deeper into his hand, but it begins to bleed more. But he is able to start climbing once more. As the Marine, he would have been a bit more impressed. So, the boy is a good candidate after all. Physically weak, but determined. Now, Deku begins to climb higher, as he would somewhat get 30 to 40 feet off the ground, before he hears one simple sound. He hears something crack and fumble, as he looks up to see that there's something trying to get at him, or at least looks different. It looks like a green plant, but it's alive. Now, this thing would somewhat try lashing forward and actually attacking Deku. Since Deku did find a bit of a hole in the ravine that he can actually get a stable footing in. Now, Deku, he would have actually moved backwards as he jumped away from the cliff, which the Marine would have been a bit confused by, as Deku basically comes falling down to the ground. Before he can even hit the ground, the Marine would have somewhat jumped up into the air, grabbing Deku and basically slamming into the ground, as Deku can feel and hear every single thing happening, disorienting him and actually confusing him. The Marine actually seeing that Deku got attacked by something. His face is a bit scratched up, and is actually somewhat covered in this green substance. It may be the moss, or it may have been the creature. He does not know. Now, the Marine, he would just tell Deku that that little stunt was quite impressive, even for a child's. Now, you must listen to me, boy, as the man would just see Deku's face is covered in something, along with his shirt and, well, most of the front of his body. He would set Deku down, then walk over to the moss, grabbing some of it with his finger and sliding it into his helmet. As Deku would see the man immediately just open up his helmet and spit it out, turning around telling Deku that he must immediately go see the apothecary. You may have been exposed to something poisonous, child. Now, as long as you keep that cut in your skin, well, uncovered, or, well, touched by that substance, you should be fine. Which is whenever Deku would look down at his hand. He's not really sure how big the cut is, but there's moss around it, so he would immediately take off. As the man would have pointed in a direction saying the apothecary is that way, about 2 to 3 miles. Make it to him within time, and you may actually be able to get through the trials. Now, the man would have actually sent someone with Deku. Let's say a young girl. I'm aware that Space Marines cannot be female before someone says anything, but, well, hey. Now, if someone has seen a female Space Marine that is actually in canon, because from my research I have not seen one. If any of you know if there is one, please put it in the comments below and I can actually see who it was. But anyways, Deku, he would leave with this girl, as they would both be somewhat running. Deku was basically given a time frame. He needs to get there within 30 to 45 minutes. And he doesn't have a watch, so he needs to hurry. He can get there, but 30 to 45 minutes may not be even the right time, since the Marine basically said that if he gets there within 30, he might have a chance of surviving. Might being a bad idea, so he would have started running immediately, as the girl would have gone after him. Now then, Deku, him and this girl, they'd be running and somewhat trying to talk, as they would have made it about a mile before they actually do stop running. And it has only been 7 to 8 minutes, and Deku is actually quite a bit tired, along with the fact that he is starting to feel the effect of whatever this is in his system somewhat hurting his body, as his skin would get a bit pale, and the girl would just say that he needs to, well, stay up, stay conscious. Try and focus on what you're going to do. As she would somewhat just point Deku in the right direction, and the two would start walking very fast. After about 10 to 15 more minutes, so 22 minutes, they would have arrived to find the apothecary. He is teaching kids survival training. These plants right here, if they are like this, or show these characteristics, they are either edible, or the ones that show this characteristic are poisonous, and which ones you can use for medicine, and or proper ways to heal yourself, in case you are ever found without your armor. Now, the Marine would have saw these two walk up, and he would have been a bit confused, as he sees this boy's, one of his arms is completely coated in blood, basically, since the blood, whenever he was climbing, dried, and his hand is just covered in it. The apothecary would have actually, well, somewhat run up to him, and immediately start treating his wounds. This is what the apothecary looks like. Now, he would have helped Deku with the wound, and whenever he hears that Deku has somewhat of a bit of poison in his system, he somewhat gives Deku a little bit of medicine. This medicine, it is enough to help get Deku somewhat, clear some of Deku's system, since he got quite a bit of it in his body. Now, the Marine would have flushed out most of Deku's system, but he still does want Deku to somewhat learn from this experience, have his body understand what this feeling is, and to help build an immunity to it. He basically got Deku back from the lethal stage, but Deku, he's still tired, as the apothecary would have instructed him to stay off his feet for about an hour and to drink plenty of water. Now, the apothecary would have told Deku that this was just supposed to be an easy day. Apparently, that is not the case. Now, about an hour would pass, and he would see that everyone is learning this medical stuff, and he's actually been quite listening to it. Now, they would have eventually gotten back to the church, as this girl, she actually is helping Deku, since she was one of the only kids who actually saw what he did. Now, they would have given Deku a bandage for the scratches on his face, and one for his hand. As Deku, he begins to somewhat fight off this infection like it's a cold and or a flu. So as if he was sick. So, he would be having a bit of trouble with that. But that's nothing that he could not handle, since he can drink plenty of water, get rest, and keep himself okay. Now, eventually Deku, he would have gotten better, as the other children, they are playing a bit before they're trying to relax. So they're just talking more and more, as Deku would have walked up to this girl. She was the one that helped him as Deku would open his mouth, asking her a question. Hi, I'm guessing you helped me, right? Oh, yeah, I did. But I do have a question. You climbed up that mountainside, right? As a lot of other kids would be talking. And, well, they stopped to hear that Deku did something that they didn't. Well, yeah, I did actually. But I kinda didn't expect the thing I was touching to be poisonous. Or, well, that animal up there. Animal? Yeah. Anyways, my name is Izuku Midoriya. But you can just call me Deku. What's your name? Oh, well, most people just call me Ejiro. But just call me Kirishima. No. Deku, yes, he just met a female Kirishima. As these two would begin to talk. Now, they would have been interrupted by a space marine, telling them that this is not the time for talk, this is the time for action. As he would have let them out for them to go training some more. Now, that is where I'm going to be leaving this part off, guys. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.